Hi, it's T with Teaquilts, and I am here at my work area. I'm at my cutting area, and my cousin wants me to make a rainbow quilt for one of her godchildren that's being born. And today is April 28th, and she needs this by May 10th. So, and she lives in South Carolina as well. But I thought I wasn't initially going to record this because I need to get busy on it, but I thought that I would go ahead and show you what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take 6 colors. I'm actually going to do purple as well. I'm going to do red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. And I pulled a few of my AccuQuilt Go dies, and then I pulled all of my colors of the rainbow. Some other ones are down there, and then I have a background print. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a strip of each color. And initially I was going to do like crumb piecing, but I thought, hey, why not make it easier for myself and just use some of my dies. So here I'm going to make a row that's 36 inches long with half square triangles. So I have a die here, my 4.5 inch finished half square triangles, and then I actually need this row to be 5.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is add 1 inch on the sides of it, and I may make this row 6 inches, and then I can put a 1 inch strip on each side of the half square triangles, and then this will be my red row. But instead of just putting like solid squares, just regular squares next to each other, I thought, why not just go ahead and use my dies? Why do crumb piecing when I've got all of these different geometric AccuQuilt Go dies? I can just cut them and sew these pieces right back together. It shouldn't take too much longer. It will take longer, but it won't take too much longer, and then I can mix my fabrics up that way. So I have already pressed and cut pieces of my red squares so that I can put on my 4.5 inch AccuQuilt die system. So I'm going to cut that, and I will be right back. And I'm actually holding my camera, so you're gonna have some movement today because I still have my tripod packed in my luggage from going to Paducah. But I need to get this quilt done, and at the last minute I decided to share it with you, so bear with the shaking on the camera. I'll see you all when I cut this. Alright, so I'm back, and I have done cutting. These are my 9 squares that I've cut into half square triangles, and all that I'm going to do is just rearrange the fabric. So I'm just going to take the top fabric off of one stack, put it onto the bottom, and I am just going to sew these into half square triangles. Then once I sew them into half square triangles, I'm just going to sew them into one long row of half square triangles. Hi, I'm back, and I have my strip set with me, and I noticed on my die that it said 4.5 inch finished, not 4 inch finished, which is what I should have used. So my strip is a 1/2 inch wider than it should be. I got it all sewn here, and I cut my strips 1.5 inches by 36.5 inches, and so now I need to make them 1.25 because I want this total to be 36 inches. My strip set was way longer than it needed to be, so when I got down here to the end, I just whacked off at 36.5 inches. So I'm still using 36.5 inches. So I'm going to cut these to 1.25, and then I'm going to sew them on either side, and I'll be back. I am back, and as you can see, I now have my side strips sewed onto my piece. And so this is my top row. This is the top of my pattern because I wanted this piece to be real close to when I put the binding on. I didn't want it inside my quilt. So this piece is now 6.5 by 36.5, and I'm making a 40 by 40 quilt. So what I'm going to do now is I have a piece that's cut 4 1/2 by 6.5, I'm going to sew that onto the sides. So I will sew that onto the side. And that's a real simple step. So I'm going to go ahead and go to what I'm going to do for my next row, which is my orange row. I have Studio die number 50146. It's a 3.5 by 6.5 cut rectangle. And for all of these dies, I will leave the information down in the description box. So if you're interested, you can get these. And if I can find the number on the Go, AccuQuilt Go die, I will also list that number as well. But I don't have this die on my AccuQuilt Go. So now I want to cut my orange, which I've already done. So I'm going to make my orange row be 8.5 by 30.5. So since this die is 6 inches wide finish, I'm going to do like 2 rows of bricks, and I thought that I need 10 of them. So 6 divided by 30 equals 5. I need 10 of them. So I've already cut 9 bricks, and the reason why I cut 9 is because I'm going to do 2 rows of bricks, because I'm going to make it a 6 by 30 row. So I'm going to have like 2 rows of bricks. But at the beginning of the row, I didn't want to have just the squares lining back up, because I'm trying to make this as easy as possible where I'm not dealing with seams. So what I have done is I have cut 2 3.5 inch squares, so 1 row, and then when I lay the other brick row, they'll be offset seams, so I don't have anything here to actually match up. So I'm going to go do this step, and so I want this row to end up being 8.5 inches wide, but right now it's only 6. So then I'm just going to cut a 2.5 inch strip, because I want another 2 inches. That's going to be 2.5 by 30. That's going to go along this bottom. So I'm going to go do some sewing and cutting, and I'll be back. Okay, I'm on my design wall. As you can see, my first row, I have my 4.5 by 6.5 rectangle sewn. I did my orange brick row, and as you see, I used 9 whole bricks, and then I used 2 squares that were cut 3.5 inches so that I could finish off the brick row and have it so that if I had sewed 5 on top and 5 on bottom, the seams would have been right on top of each other. And then I cut the strip 2.5 inches by 30.5 inches and put that underneath the orange strip. That's all sewn together. Now my question is, in order to make this row 40 inches, I cut a piece that was, because now this row is 8 inches high, I cut a piece 8.5 inches by 10.5 inches. And I'm trying to decide if I want to keep them all on one side or should I alternate from side to side. I'm trying to see which one I like better. And I don't know. All of my rows are going to be different widths. So, but I do kind of like the staggered look here. So I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and go to my next row. I'm not going to sew this square on yet. And my next row is going to be yellow, and I'm going to be making triangle isosceles. So, and triangle isosceles mean that they're not equilateral triangles. They got a different base, and then when you go up on the angle, that they are different. So I think my die is 6 by 7. So I will show you that later, but I'm going to go ahead and get started with pressing the fabric and cutting. I'm back, and I just wanted to show you the die boards for the isosceles triangles. I actually cut 6.5 inch strips, and then on the board, here it is on the board here, and then they are 5 by 6 wide. I know you can't see that because it won't focus in. But it won't focus in. But the number on the studio die is 502 222. I'll leave a link down in the description. And then I do have it also on the Go die, and I probably will be selling this one. And the number on the Go die is 55016. So I need to look this up and see what I'm gonna sell it for. I'll probably sell it at when I do some vending or something like that. So here on the wall, I actually have the Isosceles triangles cut out. I cut 2 of 10 different fabrics, so I have 20 on the wall. And right now I'm just trying to decide how far do I want this row to go out. So I have no way of knowing how many I need, and so I just do some cutting on this one because, you know, the triangle bases. So what I'm gonna do is probably sew, I've got like the first 10 sewed up to here. And so what I will probably do is maybe sew another 5 pieces. Okay, so my battery ran out, and then I got to playing with my row while I replaced the battery. And I decided that I'm going to do 15 of these triangles. And what's going to end up happening is the ones on the end here and over here are going to end up being chopped in halves. They're going to be squared up, and then I will fill out the rest of the row with a piece of fabric, however, whatever size I need, once I cut my pieces into a rectangle. So I will come back and give you those final measurements. And I am also going to, I have decided that I am going to alternate the sides of where my background pieces are, because I didn't want them all on one side of the quilt. So that is what I'm going to do. I will come back once I get this piece squared up and my background piece cut, so I can tell you what those measurements are. And also, I still am going to need to have a strip underneath. So this row right now is 5.5 inches tall, and I think I want this row to be 6.5 inches tall when it's sewn together. So yeah, I'm trying to make a quilt that's like approximately 40 by 40. It doesn't have to be exact, but that's what I'm aiming for. So I'll be back. When I finished my yellow row, the yellow triangles measured like 5 5/8 of an inch high. I wanted that row to be 6.5 inches. So what I did was, after sewing 11 of those isosceles triangles together, I cut a 1 3/4 inch strip and put underneath. And then I just added a piece of gold that was the same height. I made the yellow and the strip, it was ended up being 7 inches high. So I just cut a strip of fabric 7 inches high, and I sewed it on there. And then I cut that entire width to 6.5 inches because that's what I really wanted. And then I just trimmed off the edge so that I would be at 40.5 inches. So that's where we are with the yellow pieces. I have started on my green row, so let me take you to my cutting area and we'll get started over there. And I have already started working on my green row. I decided to use chisels for this row. This row I want to finish 4 inches wide by 40.5 inches long. And so I decided to do a 3-inch height chisel, and I am going to add the 1.5 inch strip on it to make it 4.5 unfinished, 4-inch finished. And so with this chisel, a chisel is really just a rectangle where you've taken one corner off of it. And so if it's 3 inches, that means that this diagonal on a 45 degree is 3 inches gone. So when you sew 2 of these together, if you have 6 here and 6 here, that's 12. And so if it's intersecting for 3 inches, that means you just take off 3 inches. So if you sew 2 of these together, that means you'll have a piece that's 3.5 by 9.5 unfinished. So I have already done that with these chisels here. So I need 4 chisels. I ended up using 5 fabrics, so I've got 5 pairs of these. And so I am just going to figure out which one of these that I want to put in my actual quilt top. And then I am going to use this fabric and cut my 1.5 inch strip. So if these are, 4 of these are sewn together at 9 inches finished in length, then I need 4 of these instead of 5. So that'll be 36.5 inches. And so in order to get 40, I just need to add a piece that's a 4.5 inch square, literally, because once I put my strip under the bottom, I'll need a background piece to make it 40 inches. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'll meet you back on the design wall once it's all done. Hi quilters, I am back, and I am showing you my design wall. I have my green chisel pieces. Again, they were 3 inch by 9 inch finished, which means they were 3 1/2 and 9 by 9 1/2 inch before I sewed them together. Then when I sewed 4 together, I had a piece that was 36.5 by 3 1/2, and I wanted to make this row 4.5 inches unfinished, 4 inch finished. So I cut a 1.5 inch strip that was 1.5 by 36.5, and then to finish off my 40 inch width, I added a 4.5 inch square. Now you will notice that under every column, in every color, I always put a strip across the bottom, and I also have one across the top on the red. And that's because I didn't want to have to worry about where seam allowance would be meeting with the next row. I just didn't want to have to worry about that, so I just decided to put some form of a strip underneath each strip set. So now we're on to the blue row, and I have blue and purple left. So let me take you to the cutting area for the blue. So you can probably see from all the blue fabric laying around that I probably already cut, and I did. And I had some boo-boos because I didn't know what I was going to actually make. So this time I'm using my chisel die. It's called Fractured Tumbler, and you can actually make 3 different blocks with this. So you got this section here as well as these pieces here. So you can make it where you put 4 of these together. You can make it where you put 2 of these together. And these kind of just resembled some of the other things that I had done, so I didn't want to do that. This right here is what I decided to do, but there's also a third way where you can put 2 of these together with 1 of the larger ones. This is how the die looks on the other side. And I want to give you the die number. I don't know if it's on the Go system, but on the Studio the number is 50861. Main thing with the block that I'm using, I needed to have pieces that were reversed and regular piece. So I needed to have the regular piece, which they're calling these the B pieces. So I need B pieces and then B pieces reversed, and I needed 4 of each kind. So 4 B pieces and 4 reverse B pieces. I found that if you cut like a 7.5 inch square, you can just lay it over this section and you will cut it out. This section is 7 inches. So once I got my pieces cut out, and I made a block and realized that I needed to have it reversed. So that's how I know I need to have it reversed, because I wasted some fabric by not reversing it. So here are my parts of my pieces. I've already started sewing them, but basically these are the 4 pieces that I cut before. So let me zoom you in. So these were the 4 pieces that I cut straight on the board. So again, you're going to need to have 4 of each colorway, and then you're going to need 2 fabrics where you're cutting 4. So you're going to need a total of 16 of these pieces. So a total of 16. So you're going to need, of the 16, you've got 2 colorways. So if you got 2 colorways, that means you need 8 of each piece. So 4 of them need to be the regular side, and then 4 of them need to be reversed. So that's how it works. It's a little confusing, and I know I'm saying it wrong. But then when you have, this is the reverse block on this side. Let me pull it back. So this is the reverse block. And then when you put them together, you have a reverse block over here and another block here. So let me zoom you out. And then when you put the 2 or the 4 actual blocks, I call these like sub blocks, and then this is a great block. So when you put, this is regular block, this is a reverse, this is a reverse, this is a regular block. And when you put them together, then you'll come up with your block. I'm trying to make it so you can see everything. And I just haven't done that part yet. So I've gotten all my cutting done. I'm going to make, let's see, 4 of these. Each one of these mini blocks or 6-inch finished. So when I put this together, this is actually a 12-inch block. So I'm going to make maybe 3 of these blocks, because 12 times 3 is 36, because that's a lot in a, and I don't even have room. I can't even put any more. I did cut out for 4 blocks though, but I'm only going to use 3 of them because they're 12-inch blocks, and I didn't want to do 2 blocks. I guess I can try 2 blocks and see, but right now the plan is to use 3. We'll see if I actually do it or not. But I'll see you all later. Alright, I know that I haven't shown you my blue strip set yet. I did sew those 3 blocks together, and then I added a piece on the end. Because those 3 blocks were 36.5 inches, I added a piece that was 4 1/2 inch by 12 1/2 inch. That's the cut size. And that row is now 40 inches. It is not sewn to the piece. I have it here. But you're not going to be able to see the entire thing. But I love the way these blocks came out. This actually reminds me of the apple core. So, pretty neat way of doing this. I like this. I now need to make my final row, my row with the purple. So my row with the purple, I'm actually going to use my AccuQuilt Go die. That's 1 1/2 inch strips. And on the AccuQuilt Go, my label has come off. So I don't know this number either. And so I have already gone through my purple and I have cut my strips. And now what I'm going to do is just sew these with the mitered seam. All of these strip sets together. And then I'm going to cut these into 32.5 inch lengths. And I'm going to cut 4 of them. And then I'm going to sew those 4 lengths together. My last row is going to be 4 inches by 32.5 inches, and then I will add 8.5 by 4.5 on the end. So I am going to go get sewing, and I will be back. Here is my completed quilt top. You can see where I have added my row of purple down at the bottom, and I added 4 strips, 1 1/2 inches cut by 32.5 inch. And then I added a piece on the end over there in the background on the left. It's 4 1/2 inches by 8 1/2 inches. So this quilt is now a square. It is 40 1/2 inches by 40 1/2 inches unfinished. So my next step is I need to find a fabric for the backing. I would like to have something that's rainbow if I can, or at least multicolored. I'm not sure if I got any rainbow fabric. But that's my next step, and when I get to quilting, I will let you see what I'm doing. So I am now with my long arm. I'm actually ready to quilt the quilt. And I also have a backing. My quilt is approximately 40.5 inches by 40.5 inches. And I had 1 yard of this print, and so I needed it a little longer. So I just added a piece in to make it about 46 inches so I can put it on my long arm. So that's what I'm going to do next. Okay, I'm back, everybody, and I have completed the quilt. And I just wanted to give you a quick rundown of what I did on the quilting, because I know I did not show you everything as I was doing the actual work. I kept forgetting to cut on my camera. So here we go with the finished top. So let's talk about the quilting, and then while I'm doing that, I'll also talk about the AccuQuilt dies, just give you a refresher. I used 4 1/2 inch finished half square triangles in the reds, and then I matched the colors up so that it looked like diagonal piecing. And then I did the spiral quilting, but the spiral quilting has back loops around the spirals. In the orange, I used my bricks. They're 3 by 6 inch finished. And then on the top row on the left and right sides, I added a 3 inch finished square so that my bricks wouldn't stack on top of each other. And then in my yellow row, I used my Isosceles triangle. And let's see, the quilting in here in the orange, I'm sorry, is loops. And then the quilting in the yellow is ruler work. In the green, I use my chisel die. And then this one I used, I forgot what this die is called. I'll put it on the screen. I'm so sorry. And I made 3 blocks with that. And then the bottom die. And what's the quilting in here? Oh, let's see. The quilting in the green. I keep forgetting the quilting. I've got loops. So I've got the serpentine or the wishbone. But I did a big row first. And then I came back from the other end and did the smaller loop that doesn't go to the seam line. And then the quilting here is more spirals. It's kind of hard to see the quilting on this. And then I put like some spikes on into some of the spirals, like here. And then the bottom row is my purples. And they're 1 1/2 inch strip die, 1 inch finished. And I did waves in this quilting. In the white backgrounds, I'll just go up. I did meandering. The binding fabric, I had a hard time choosing a binding fabric because certain colors took away from the other colors when I came through. So I found this piece of fabric here, and it seemed to work or complement each fabric, so that's what I did. And then on the back, I have also added a label. So this right here is actually getting ready to get put in the mail, so I will not have it to show anywhere else, but I thought that I would do a video on it. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next project. Bye bye, everybody.